Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with that strange feeling? You know, the one, that gut-wrenching certainty that you're not alone, even when you know you are. It's a primal fear, something hardwired into our DNA from a time when things really did go bump in the night. For me, that feeling became a reality. It started subtly, almost comically so. I'd come home from a long day, exhausted, and my bedroom would feel off. It's hard to describe. It was like the air was heavier, thicker. I chalked it up to stress, to the city noise, to anything but what it really was. My bedroom has always been my sanctuary. I have these old wooden blinds, and at night, the moonlight slices through them, painting these long, beautiful stripes across the floor and the far wall. It used to be calming, but then, things started to change. One night, I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, trying to wind down. The room was dark except for the phone's glow and those familiar stripes of moonlight. I put my phone down on the nightstand and rolled over. As my eyes adjusted to the dark, I noticed something. The edge of my bed, near my feet, was indented, just slightly, like someone was sitting there. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stared, frozen, trying to make sense of it. The indentation was clear as day in the pale moonlight, a perfect, person-sized dip in the mattress. But there was no one there. The air turned ice cold, and I could see my own breath misting in front of my face. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a lump in the duvet, an old mattress finally giving up. I squeezed my eyes shut, counted to 10, and opened them again. The dip was still there. I slowly, painstakingly, reached out a foot, inching it across the cold sheets until my toes brushed against the empty space where the weight should have been. There was nothing, just cold, empty air, but the mattress was still pressed down. I yanked my foot back and pulled the covers up to my chin, my mind racing. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I just lay there, listening to the silence, staring at the impossible dent in my bed until the sun came up and it slowly, mercifully, faded away with the shadows. The next day, I felt foolish. In the bright, unforgiving light of morning, the whole thing seemed absurd, an overactive imagination, that's all. I even bounced on the end of the bed, trying to replicate the dip. Nothing. I went about my day, determined to forget the entire episode. But when night fell again, that familiar sense of dread crept back in. This time, I decided to face it. I left a small lamp on, casting a soft, warm glow, hoping to keep the deepest shadows at bay. I felt a little safer. I read a book, the comforting weight of it in my hands, the smell of old paper filling the air. Eventually, my eyelids grew heavy, and I drifted off. I woke up a few hours later. The lamp was off. I don't remember turning it off. The room was plunged back into that deep, cinematic darkness, broken only by the moonlight through the blinds. And that's when I saw it. It wasn't just a dent in the bed anymore. Beside the bed, on the floor, a shadow was taking shape. It was disconnected from everything. It wasn't my shadow, or the shadow of the bed, or the furniture. It was just there. It started as a dark puddle on the floorboards, then it began to rise. It was like watching ink bleed upwards into the air. It stretched and elongated, a formless column of pure black that seemed to absorb the light around it. It had no features, no body casting it, but it had presence, it had weight. The silence in the room was deafening, absolute. All I could hear was the frantic thumping of my own pulse in my ears. The shadow swayed gently, a tall, thin silhouette against the textured plaster of my wall. My mind was screaming, trying to find a logical explanation. A car's headlights, a trick of the moonlight, but it was too solid, too still, too intentional. It felt like it was watching me. I was paralyzed, pinned to my mattress by a fear so profound it felt physical. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't obey. I could only lie there wide-eyed as this impossible shape held its silent vigil by my bedside. I must have passed out from sheer terror, because the next thing I knew, my alarm was blaring. Sunlight was streaming into the room, chasing away every trace of the night's horror. The shadow was gone. The room was just a room. For a week, nothing happened. I started to believe, to hope, that it was a one-time nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination. I even bought a new, stronger nightlight, one of those plug-in types that casts a wide, sterile arc of light. I felt like a child, but I didn't care. I needed the reassurance, I needed the light. And then came last night. I fell asleep with my new nightlight burning brightly, a beacon in the darkness. I felt safe. I drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, the kind of sleep you only get when you're truly exhausted. I don't know what woke me. It wasn't a sound. It was a feeling, a pressure, a closeness. I opened my eyes, and my world ended. The room was bright. My nightlight was on. My bedside lamp was on. Even the main overhead light was blazing. flooding every corner of the room with harsh, clinical light. There were no shadows, except for one. It was leaning over me, so close I could feel a chill emanating from it, a cold that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room. It was the same shadow from before, but now it had a suggestion of a form. It was tall and impossibly thin, bent over my bed, its head just inches from my face. I couldn't see features, not really. It was more like an absence of detail, a void in the shape of a person, but I could feel its gaze. I could feel it looking at me. The light didn't banish it, it defined it. It made it real. I was trapped in a claustrophobic nightmare, pinned under its focus, the bright lights making it impossible to look away. My breath hitched in my throat, a choked, silent scream that wouldn't come out. Its head tilted, a slow, inquisitive gesture. And in that terrifying, light-filled silence, I understood. The darkness wasn't what I needed to be afraid of. It wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was the shadow, and the light just showed me where it had been all along. I'm filming this now because I don't know what else to do. I haven't slept. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see it leaning over me. I've left every light in the house on, but what's the point? It doesn't care about the light. I keep looking over my shoulder at the corners of the room, at the dark shape I cast on the floor, wondering if it's my own. Has anyone else ever experienced something like this? A shadow that isn't a shadow. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Please, if you have any idea what this is, or what I can do, tell me in the comments. I'm afraid to be alone, but I'm even more afraid of what happens when I fall asleep. Thanks for watching. I'll update you if I can. Please subscribe. I don't want to do this alone.